everybody. Welcome back to the Shift Podcast. My name is Marquise Carroll. I am back again with Guillermo Aquino, and we have an exciting topic for you all today, and that is identifying security risks. Now, everyone might say, like, how does this even apply to me? I'm a consumer of just products, or, you may not have a business, but it applies to everyone, whether you have a business or you don't. Security risks are things that are very broad. They're everywhere. Whether it's your physical security risk, whether it's cyber security risk, whether it's your data, there's all type of risks out there, and you have to be prepared for it. So, first and foremost, I'm going to introduce a couple questions, and Guillermo, we're going to go kind of rapid fire here and kind of go into some topics. So, let's talk first to the consumers, because these are the individuals that they don't necessarily identify what a risk is or how something can be risky, whether it's shopping online, whether it's somewhere they're going, whether it's a website or something that they're purchasing. Let's talk a little bit about, if I'm a consumer, what are some things that are risks to me from a security perspective?
Well, consumers have a few risks that I've recognized over the years. I've actually helped some consumers I'm thinking about right now in my mind. I know a person. She's a single lady, and she ends up having 5 or 6 computers. And
Mm,
um, and and then I've asked her about them all. And she says, "Well, one, I got virus protection. These other three I don't, and this one I just I have it in my closet, and I really don't use it. And then I have my tablet, and this
mm,
is this is how I do all my computing. This is how I do all my stuff. And realizing she has a lot of attack surface, and what I mean by
mm,
attack surface, she has a lot of devices that are connected to the internet and exchanging information with, and some of them she recognizes that are not secure.
mm,
So that's a definite risk when you're thinking about consumers. I'd rather you have one solid device and have
mhm,
security on it and use that versus having all these other devices that you've collected over the years. Those are one of the things that just come to mind right up front, dealing with consumers. Some of the cases I've seen, and then other ones just holding on to machines a little too long, like
mm,
they're running. They don't want to spend the money to get a new computer. Well, when they realize a computer is only $500, and not to say it's $500. $500 is a lot,
yep,
but nowadays, well, back in the day, we were spending $3,500 on a computer,
very true.
2,500. Now
Hmm.
computers are you almost replace your computer twice. I shouldn't say once every 2 years or so, or once
Hmm.
every 3 years, depending on what you do.
Hmm.
And depending on that, some people hold on to these devices way too long. I mean, they're running Windows 7, they haven't changed their
Hmm.
OS out. Um, or they get an operating system like Windows 10 Home, which I don't
Yeah.
think is very good for you. Even as a consumer, you should at least get Windows Pro.
Hmm.
And why? Because there's a lot of security features that come with Windows Pro
Right.
versus Windows Home. So
Hmm.
those are some of the things I think about when it comes to consumers. Those are just some thoughts right off the top of my head. So
That's really good. And I think to add to what you're saying, you hit it from the Windows side. I'll hit it from the Mac side, which is, if you have a Mac, you do need virus protection. I need you to know it. You can still be exploited. I have to. I know I say that every couple of shows, but I just have to, because people are like, I have a Mac. I'm never gonna get a virus, right? Like, you will get a virus. You will, and it might be even worse than what someone would get on Windows. Because what people don't know is a Mac is really at the base layer Linux, and at the base layer of Linux, which is an operating system, there's a ton of packages that make up your operating system, and people generally find a vulnerability that they can exploit in one package. You'd be surprised. It'd be like a package that makes sure your time works in the top right, or something that helps or supports that. And if that gets a critical vulnerability, somebody can go as far as taking over your computer. You don't think about it like that, because you think, I have all these cool widgets, I have all these cool things. It's a Mac. Everyone knows Mac. They wouldn't want to hack me. I'll never get hacked with a Mac, or there's no risk to that. But it is. You still have to do the necessary things to protect yourself, to protect your data, to keep yourself secure. So I kind of had to add that. Now, when we talk about businesses, right? And I think a lot of people have different types of businesses. Whether you work in the food industry, whether you're in, maybe the beauty industry, whether you're in, accounting, technology, service sort of oriented, work sort of environments. Wherever you are, there's some sort of security risk to your business, and you have a website. That's a security risk, right? You have devices for your employees. That's a security risk. You have accounts to social media, security risk. And you may not think about it in that fashion, but your branding, being your reputation, right, is what you're protecting. A lot of times it's not always your cybersecurity and do I have antivirus? I know we talk a lot about things like that, but it's your branding, it's your company's sort of appearance to the world and to wherever you're serving. And so a lot of times when you think about risks, you have to think a little bit bigger. You have to think about, how am I protecting, maybe whether it's by trademarking, whether it's by doing certain things to keep your brand secure. That could be one form of security. But on the technical side, Guillermo, what are things that these businesses can sort of do to protect themselves, or identify their security risks? Like, how do they even know where to start? Right? They're like, I have a business, I work in this. Like, where's my risk at? How do they identify that risk?
So in the business realm, it's a lot harder versus a consumer, and the reason is it's just so much larger, and you
Mm-hmm.
have the the attack surface is very large. You have maybe 30, 40 devices, maybe you have 3 websites, and you have 25 cloud accounts.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes huge when you're talking about a business. And so with businesses, I suggest doing a security assessment. You have to get a
Mm.
risk assessment done. And what that is basically someone taking all the information about your business, they're looking at your devices, and there's different types of assessments. There's vendor assessments, there's an external assessment, and then there's an internal assessment, right? The main
Mm-hmm.
ones we're talking about. And those assessments kind of give you a full range and gamut of everything that is vulnerable, and it kind of will spell all that out for you as a business owner. And
Mm-hmm.
some vulnerabilities and security risks you might accept, and some you just can't.
Right.
As your business, you'd be like, you know what, I can't accept. If this something were to happen here, I would go out of
Mm-hmm.
business.
Right.
If something were to happen over on this side, I'm not going to go out of business. I may have some damage here or there, but it's not as important as my customer data, for example.
Right.
I got to secure my customer data, because my customers get breached, then my whole reputation is gone. My business is
Right.
gone. So
Mm-hmm.
those are things you would have to start with, is an assessment, because there's just no way to identify all that stuff in a quick glance, or just introducing yourself to a person, and then letting them tell your story, because you have to understand their vendors. Then you have to
Yep.
understand how their vendors are configured. You have to
Mm-hmm.
understand what they're using those vendors for. How are they
Right.
exchanging information with those vendors, and how their customers are exchanging information with those vendors.
Mm-hmm.
Then do you have a real defined process on how you're exchanging information? If you don't, then you're in trouble already with that. Then that's just in the cloud base. Now you're looking at local, and then you got to look at all the machines that is
Mm-hmm.
touching that data.
Right.
If are those secure, then is the network those machines are, is that secure? Is there a firewall in place? And if your firewall's got a firewall in place, is it configured correctly? And is
Right.
it updated? Is it getting
Mm-hmm.
updated? I mean, there's all kinds of things with a firewall. And then, do you have a good network switch? Are you segmenting your network? Do you have a guest Wi-Fi? Do you have an internal Wi-Fi?
Mm-hmm.
How do you separate the traffic? It's just so big. It's so much.
Right.
I can keep going and keep going. So it's just a lot. It's just a lot of information. A lot has to be covered. So a very good security assessment needs to be done. You identify your risk, and then it helps you with, also, if you have an insurance policy, like if you have
Mm.
errors, emissions, and general liability insurance, but then there is what they call cybersecurity insurance. And to
Mm-hmm.
get that cybersecurity insurance, they want to make sure you have certain things in place. They're not just
Right.
going to give you that insurance and you don't have virus protection. That's just like getting car insurance and you don't have brakes on your car. Why would they give you car insurance, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you have to cover all those aspects. And cybersecurity insurance is definitely, if you're dealing with customer data, it's definitely highly advised for you to get it.
Right.
Not only that, you're going to need somebody to come in there and put protections in place, because you won't get paid out your premium on a cybersecurity policy if you don't have security put in place.
Right.
So and you're going to have to be able to prove it, and that's why you develop something like a security plan to prove it. This is what
Mm-hmm.
I got in place, and usually a third party is the best to do that for you. So that's what I would say about business security.
That's really, really good. I really appreciate it, kind of how you went into some of those details, because I know somebody's sitting at home like, oh, I don't have that. I don't have that. I don't, and that's okay, right? That's what people, companies like, ManagedTEK is built and designed to do, to be able to kind of do those assessments and kind of, get a broad sort of view of kind of what things are, going on in your environment and how you need to implement certain tools and technologies, to be able to help you. And sometimes when you identify risk, you have to be able to say, okay, I have 10 risks, and at the end of it, it's going to cost me X amount of dollars. I can't afford all this, right? Sometimes you have to, that's why you have companies, technical companies that can help you, consult you, and they'll help you to be able to say, well, these are your top three risks. So these other ones, they're less in severity, but they are a risk. We need to address it at some point. But this year or this quarter, we need to address these three. Like you need a good firewall. Like you need a to make sure that you have an SSL cert on your website. Like some things you need to stop holding data like this, right? We need to address these three things. And so that sort of helps, in the grand scheme of things. And I think just to kind of wrap up the segment, one thing that Guillermo mentioned, I think, was really good, was that he was showing you that there's layers to risk, right? So it's a domino effect, right? You may not have one thing, but you don't realize that's going to impact you, with business, right? Being able to get certain things, where business is concerned, where insurance is concerned, all these different things. So you have to realize risk is inherited and it's layered. And so, you inherit risk when you have certain practices that you follow, and then on top of that is layers to that risk. So, like Guillermo mentioned, not having you may have a firewall, right? And you may say, okay, like I've checked the box, right? Have a firewall, but is that firewall up to date, right? Did someone configure it right? Because a misconfigured firewall it could just be an open door, right? It's like you didn't even have a firewall. And so I think all these things that Guillermo mentioned were really solid. And again, this is a segment about identifying security risk. And before we sign off, Guillermo, do you have one last thing for the people before we sign off?
Yeah, one last thing regarding business and your risk. Depending on your business, as Marquise said, it's risk is inherited. You're just
Mhm.
assuming risk by, say, I'm an accounting firm.
Right.
You got risk just by being an accountant. You went to school. You're great at what you do, but your hand as soon as you take that data on, you inherit a bunch of risk.
Hmm.
Being a law firm, again, you inherit a bunch of risk. There's laws you have to abide by. You
Hmm.
still is based off a NIST. That's a security, a framework that all law firms have to abide by, as well as CPA and accounting firms. So
Hmm.
just by being who you are and what you do, you inherit risk. So I'll
Mm.
leave you everybody with that.
Nah, that's really good. And you heard it here on the Shift podcast. We talked about identifying security risks as a consumer and as a business. So, if you have any other questions, you feel free to reach out to us. But if you did like this video, please leave us a like, a thumbs up, a comment, share, subscribe, talk to us, reach out to us anytime. And we, can go into a lot more of this offline. But we appreciate you listening as always. And until next time, stay safe, everyone, and have a good day, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world. See you later.